Hello, and welcome to our first Horizon Search live stream. We're joined with Greg Wasserman of Castmagic, who's going to show us how to leverage generative AI for content creation. That could be for announcements on social media, perhaps podcast, show notes. That's how I use it sometimes. And we're going to see some of the new features. They're constantly rolling out with new features. They've got a really lively community. And Greg himself is a guru in the podcasting space and a great person to kick off our webinar series with. So thank you, Greg.
Hey, great to be here. Yeah, it's always fun, always exciting to talk about AI. It's the hot buzzword, right? But it's also the scary piece. So I'm excited to talk about how to use it to 10x your content.
Great. And you have a new feature that just came online recently, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think first things first, let's start actually understanding how to use it before we actually go into what it is. So yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Over to you.
Well, let's jump on in.
Right.
So let me get the screen shared here. There we go. All right, so we're here to, hopefully everyone's here to learn about how to 10x your content using AI. I would love if anyone's here to put in the chat, like what AI tools you're using right now. If anyone wants to comment and kind of let us know like what it is that you're using, that'd be helpful. Because purpose today right now is really just to make it really educational. How you can be thinking about using AI for your content creation, some examples and successful strategies around it, and then of course some tools that you can use that can help you think about it. Because I always like to think about content repurposing in multiple facets, beyond just how do I create content. So if we go this, David, most likely everyone knows you, but if they don't, hey, you want to introduce yourself a little more?
Sure. I'm a world traveler, global citizen, and in the pandemic, I went to business school, got involved with entrepreneurship, and launched this platform to basically highlight entrepreneurs around the world, share some stories and insights, and hopefully get the cross-pollination going. And generative AI is a great way to do that. And yeah, to answer your question, Greg, while we're waiting for people to comment, I think I've used maybe ChatGPT, now Perplexity.ai. As I understand, that uses references and perhaps uses ChatGPT under the hood. And I'm curious, aside from Castmagic, is there anything that you use?
Definitely living in Castmagic, ChatGPT is well. And then I've been starting playing around with some of the image guys in the background to like figure out, is there an image creator that I could leverage? But beyond that, yeah, not too much. Those are, I mean, Castmagic kind of does everything I need it to do from what I do.
It does a lot. And I don't think I've even scratched the surface myself. So I always relish our interactions to see kind of what else I could do. Sadly, I probably only use 1/10 of what you show me, but I'm hoping I pick up another 1/10 today.
I think the more you play with it, the more you dive into it, the more you're like, wow. And the brainstorming sessions that come out of it is just really fun. So excited about that. So while people are responding. So in terms of who I am and why I'm diving in here. So my background is I was spent about 20 years in the media space, working with brands, agencies, then took me into the world of podcasting, as David kind of talked about. I ran 3 podcast listening platforms, which really gave me a great insights to creators. And I truly believe that podcasters not only are creators, but they're businesses, they're brands. A lot of podcasters are running coaching sessions, they're doing courses, they're doing meetings, they're doing all these other business functions beyond just the podcast. And so I always thought, like, why couldn't you take that content and give it to me, not only just in audio form, but turn it into a podcast, or turn it into a blog, a newsletter, a tweet thread, a LinkedIn post, all these other components that I can engage with your brand. And that's where I was able to come up with and work with Castmagic, which is a tool that allows me to do all those things. So that's kind of what we're here to talk about, is how do I now leverage AI to help me 10x my content. So if we go back to the presentation here and we go to the next slide. So when I think about 10x in your content, I always like to go with Gary Vee as the starting point. And why? Because Gary is the OG. He has always been talking about the power of repurposing. Everyone, no matter where you are in the world, probably knows Gary Vaynerchuk. He has made it prolific that he takes one piece of content and he figures out how to repurpose that. And that has allowed him as a brand to be global, to ultimately be everywhere. He speaks his mind, he speaks his heart, his truth. He shares those, he records it, whether it's on a stage or just him recording, and he figures out, how do I repurpose all those components? And so when I think about Gary Vee, I'm like, I'm a solopreneur. I am not a team of Gary V's, and I don't have a team in the back end. So it's a little overwhelming to think about, how do I 10x my content? I'm not Gary Vee. And so when you think about it, and I always like going here, is like the overwhelming feeling of resource limitations. It's just me. There's not 28 hours in a day. I don't have the manpower, the budgets, the time to do things. How do I maintain the quality of things? So as quantity increases, how do I maintain the quality across all those different channels? How do I actually create all those content pieces? You know, a blog, a video, podcast, social promotion, a newsletter, all those components. That's a lot. And then how do I engage? Like, if I send out a newsletter, if I send out a LinkedIn, if I'm sending out a tweet, like, how do I then start engaging with all those audiences? Wow, that's a lot. And then the workflow. I mean, maybe I start scaling and I start having another person on my team, or maybe I'm using this for my team. And I'm thinking about, how do I help repurpose and 10x my content with my team? Well, now you've got to start managing quality and everything else. And that becomes a little difficult. So there's all these things that you are probably feeling, and it's natural and it's okay. And that's why I have this slide, because you're feeling the feels, it makes sense. But I will say is, think about what role AI has in your workforce, in your workflow. In the world we're living in right now, where AI is prolific and everyone's focused on it, the main difference is going to be you. You're the brand, you're the authentic voice. Nothing can replicate what's up here and who you are. Yes, we've got tools that are replicating your voice and replicating your image, or creating puppies playing in the snow. But at the end of the day, you still can't replicate your thoughts and your words. And so if you're going to ChatGPT and you're typing in all these things, it's not your words. It's just pulling in a plethora of content that it's been trained on. So I want to make sure, if I'm using that content and it sounds like it's written with AI, especially now with the search engines going like, this sounds like it's written like AI, then the key pieces, don't over automate. Remember, your brand, your content, you can't outsource that. So if we go to the next piece here, right? So going down the trajectory, the storyline here. So OG Gary Vee and what he's done to build his brand, to be successful, and how he thinks about it. I'm not that team, but let's actually figure out, why does he do what he does? Why is this important, and why you should be 10xing your content, and how AI can help you. First one is volume. Consistently, regularly posting keeps your audience engaged. Going back to the podcast piece, but we can also talk about TV. We can talk about YouTube. We can talk about anything that's constantly, consistently posted, where you're like, oh, every Monday I'm waiting for this podcast. Every Monday I'm waiting for this TV show. Every Tuesday, I'm waiting for my newsletter. Whatever that piece is, you build up that audience engagement, and they get consistently focused on, I need that piece of content. I want that. But that also then volume allows you then have visibility and reach. More content means more opportunities to reach people. I can now go ahead and say, all right, if I'm posting a LinkedIn post every day, well, that now X numbers the times of people are able to see it, the engagements I'm able to get. I'm not worried about, is this getting me millions of views? Is this going viral? I'm just being sure that I'm being consistent and showing up people's feeds so that my name is there. And now I can also then start thinking about the algorithms come into play. Search engines favor sites that consistently produce fresh content. So the more content you put out, your visibility increases, which only helps you establish authority. Volume helps you establish authority. The more quality content you produce, the more you establish yourself as that authority in that space. Yes, there's bad content, but as long as you're putting out good content, you have to believe that you are putting out good content and you have good thoughts, that's going to help you. And then with volume, you kind of get data, right? So you're now starting to build an insights of this audience. Increased volume means understanding of the interest and the behaviors of people. You can start then optimizing. We always hear in the advertising world, A/B testing. So now I can start going like, all right, what creative is working? Take my example here as a LinkedIn person. I can now go ahead and take one piece of content, create 5 LinkedIn posts out of it, and I can look at it as different ways. I can go, I want to create 5 pieces of content targeting 5 different audiences, or one audience, and now I just write it 5 different ways and see which way works best. What is my audience engaging with? What do they find? And then start optimizing. Go, ooh, they like this. How do I refine the targeting? And how do I start understanding where those niches are? And these all then open up for monetization opportunities. And I'm not talking just about like from a podcast standpoint, how to get more downloads, or YouTube getting more views. There's so many different ways you can think about monetization. Could I increase my clients that are coming to me because they're seeing visibility of me on LinkedIn, and therefore I'm getting more people going like, ooh, I like what Greg's saying, so I'm going to go hire him, or I'm going to reach out to him and consult with him? Or could it be that I'm now getting more people subscribing to my newsletter, which gives me more visibilities, and I can go get sponsorships? There's so many different ways you can think about monetizing you as a brand and your business, which all come from the volume, the data that you've got. And then AI allows you to also start personalizing it. As I already talked about, personalizing my LinkedIn pieces, but I can start niching and speaking specifically to this person. So they don't feel like it's just generic talk and marketing talk. They're now feeling like there's a one-to-one conversation, which builds that relationship, which increases retention and loyalty, which at the end of the day allows me to stand out as a crowd. So if you think about it, more volume gives me more visibility, gives me more data, helps me stand out from a crowd, which ultimately turns into monetization, more money, more opportunities. And you can do all this with AI. And so let's actually talk about case studies here, because real world facts kind of help. So I always start here with DTC Pod. Why? Partly because they're the reason that Castmagic came about, because they understood the struggles of content creation. So DTC Pod, Ramon and Blaine have a podcast, and they were running their own VC-backed company. Once again, there's not 28 hours in a day. How do you do all these things? And so they built Castmagic as a way that they could take their podcast and create all the content that they already knew they're going to need: titles, show descriptions, timestamps, quotes, pull all those things out and go, great, take this one piece of content, let's automate all these components that I already know I'm going to have to do. And as a result of that, they got their time back. And they were also able then to start increasing the amount of content that was being on everyone's feed. So I saw it in my LinkedIn post. Every Monday, I post about 3 podcasts I think people should listen to. I happen to do their show. Next thing you know, they hit me up. They're like, hey, we see your content. So once again, I'm consistently posting volume. They're consistently posting volume. Creates a network effect, end up coming together and working together. But it also then allowed them to find their show, get more monetization out of that. They got a newsletter that they were selling sponsorships. All these from just one piece of content, their podcast, and figuring out how do I leverage that. Next one I like to talk about is Mikey Taylor. So if we think about Gary Vee and what he's done as the OG of content repurposing, Mikey was like your average Joe. He was a skateboarder. And then he figured out, how do I start creating content? And went into the real estate world, which now is managing 9-figure worth fund. So I'm going to show you a video and let him kind of talk to you, and then we'll come back and kind of connect to that. So give me a second, since I know I've got to do this on StreamYard. So let's see here, stop, present, share screen, tab, share that. All right, so I've got it queued up. Let me know when we're playing this. All right.
So I'm like, Mikey now has an audience like 10x, if not more, the size of when like I used to DM him. I DM you, you responded, you're active on X, on Instagram, on TikTok. You even have a text group and community. And so like not every day feels like, oh, today's a great day to make content. When you're that consistent, you probably make content every single day. And so I just want to hear more about like, what is your content workflow like? How do you become a content machine like that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So, and remind me to talk to you about this, because I would love to get your perspective on this as well, because there's something that I'm mentally working through also. So basically, my flow of content, or how I go about it, Mondays are, I am dark. I come into the office and my assistant knows there is zero scheduling me on Mondays. No one can get a hold of me. I am locked in the office or wherever I'm going to be working. And that day is meant for basically concepts and copy. So on Monday, what I attempt to do is come up with 10 to 12 different concepts and then write them out so I have all the copy. Tuesday is a full-blown work day for me. It's meetings, it's, if we're looking at deals, that's going to be the actual business, is going to be Tuesday. Wednesday, I am filming all day. So that is start to finish, I'm in front of the camera. And then Thursday, Friday are normal business activities, raising money, working on concepts we're doing, more of a traditional approach to business. And that allows me to basically have content that comes out daily, where Monday through Sunday, I can be.
So I love listening to this and combining. So if I combine now Gary and Mikey and just overall the case pieces there, you may still feel like I'm not a creator. I'm not Mikey doing this every day. But at the same time, you can start understanding, how does someone like Mikey do this? How is he being successful and thinking about content creation in those ways? What could I do to not maybe go to the same model he is, but think about it in a very similar way? And so this is where we go into the next piece. Oops. What is he doing? We're just taking a long form audio, a long form video. We're taking something, putting it through a tool like Castmagic, and then Castmagic, an AI tool, is already going to create all this content for me. And then all I have to do is customize, distribute it, and rinse and repeat. So instead of sitting down on Monday and strategize and Wednesday filming, if that's too much for you, then great. All you have to do is just find that piece of content, an audio, and we'll walk through what that content can look like in terms of your input. But using AI now is going to help you. And there's a question here is, can you have some insights if AI content is going to replace human content? Goes back to the disclaimer of what isn't replaceable. You aren't. So if I think about, is AI content going to replace human content? I am the human. This is the formula. It is my words, my content, and now I'm just figuring out, how do I repurpose that in multiple ways, whether repurposable has to do with distributing it as a blog, a newsletter, a website, social promotion, or as I'll talk about, other ways you can repurpose and extract insights from things. So no, I do not think that AI content is going to replace human content. There's a proliferation of content, but at the end of the day, it's going to be us, what I say David and I could say the same exact thing, but we're going to say it different ways. And why is it that you may find a speaker, they really spoke to you and it's like, wow, I feel that. But someone else saying the same exact concept doesn't engage with you. You're like, I don't feel that vibe. So that's once again the same exact thing here. You can't replicate you or the brand. And that's why I feel that AI content isn't going to replace. We are the content ourselves. So hopefully that answers. Good question. Thank you. And so then let's talk about this now. Like, how do we actually do what everything is? How does a tool like Castmagic become your personal content agency? So let me bring this up. So this is Castmagic. I always like to start here as the understanding of, once again, where the platform was, but also where it's going and how you can think about content repurposing. So as I said, the guy started it with a podcast, and out of the box, let me zoom in. Maybe that's a little better for everyone. And so out of the box, they already knew, well, if I'm going to take a long piece of content, I know I need titles, I need keywords, I need a bio, I need the timestamps, I need the quotes, I need the social promotions out of it. Like, how do I then just leverage AI to take my podcast, my long form audio, and create all the assets for me that makes life easy? But we also saw that you're not one-dimensional. You're not just a podcaster. So if you now can go ahead and take meetings and record those meetings, I don't know about you, but I've always been in a meeting. I'm like, oh, I said something smart. Who wrote that down? And you're like, oh, I forgot it. And then you're like, David, what did I say? And you're like, David's like, I know I was listening. I just don't remember. Right. So if you record those, you can now start extracting it. You can now be more present in those meetings. Or how do you take a course? Many people are course creators, or they want to be course creators. Well, if I don't want to create the worksheet, if I just want to create the course, but how do I then create the worksheet, the lead magnet, and all the promotions out of it? Those are a lot of things. So we've already set up here, out of the box, 8 different profiles based on your content, coaching calls. I'll walk through this that now allow me to extract knowledge. And so the question here is, what constitutes good content? I mean, that's ultimately going to be a subjective component, but I could have 2 people sharing their views on something. You may resonate with one and another person may not resonate. It's very subjective on what is good content. The joy is now if you believe you have something worthy of saying and you want to put it out there, you now have a better way of doing it, because I now don't have to force a person to listen to my podcast. I can go, hey, I've got this great content that came out of this podcast. I'm going to now summarize it into a blog, a newsletter, a social promotion. And if you don't go listen to it, great. You're still engaging with me. There's more volume. There's more touch points there. So like, actually talk about that. So you've got the ability to create multiple spaces. So what I was just showing you was a overview of profiles. So now I've got a Greg's podcast. I've got my coaching calls. I've got ones where I'm a guest in people's, because, hey, I guest in people's podcast, which is different than my show is as a whole. I've got workshops that I'm running. I've got meetings that I'm running through. So I've got all these different profiles that I've already set up. And then from a content standpoint, if I go back to that UX Explorer Hub question in terms of like what makes good, I have the ability to bring in content. So it may not be mine. I could bring in others. So I can bring in YouTube, Vimeo, Reels, TikTok. I can drag and drop the content from my computer if I don't actually have that. If I have the raw file, I can go and get the RSS feed for the podcast, or I can zap content in. So if I recorded this like over Zoom, go great. As soon as that Zoom call is over, I'm going to zap it in here. So there's all these other ways. So back to what constitutes good content, go out there. If you're like, I don't produce good content, but I want to use content that's out there as inspiration, go ahead and you can bring it in, and now you can go ahead and work with it. So let's take a look at now, here's at the podcast level, which David uses, but I'll hold off for his use case. But like, we all start with a transcription. So everything is getting transcribed. I label my speakers. So I've got a full transcription here. And then I click on the AI content. And this is out of the box podcast profile, that first one. I'm going to get 10 different titles. I'm going to give me my SEO keywords. It's It's going to create a speaker bio. It's only based on the recording that I've provided. So if I go back to ChatGPT, it's about anything that's in there. I'm only working within the basis of what this recording is. So once again, my brand, my thoughts, my view, or whatever the piece of content that I'm putting here, that's what I'm getting. Timestamps. It's going to create topics and bullet points. It's going to pull out quotes. It's going to start pulling out quotes. So if I think about, once again, the UX Explorer Hub, kind of what constitutes good question, good content, what constitutes a good quote. Once again, subjective, but we're pulling out all these different quotes that you're now able to go like, ooh, I like this quote, with a timestamp. So you can either now go clip it, turn it into a quote card. As Dave was talking about, we've got that whole studio function in here that you can now do. We're now going to create social promotions. So an Instagram reel, a LinkedIn post, a newsletter, tweet thread, threads by Instagram, questions. I love questions. Literally, these become discussion questions like how to make AI content compete with AI content. I don't even know what that question. How do I make AI content compete with AI content? In this case, I'm using my own content and I'm just having it written. Like, I could not write all these pieces of content. It would take me too long to come up with a tweet thread. But now I can go like, great, write me a tweet thread based on what I said, what I recorded, and it's going to do that for me. And then I can start automating. So we've got this function called Magic Chat that allows you now to start automating more than those 13 things I gave you. So in this case, write a 3-episode summary. And this is then I saved it as a show notes. Or in this case, construct an attention-grabbing YouTube channel description. I didn't save it. It's only relevant for this specific recording. Or in this one, tell me a compelling, interesting analogy metaphor. And I saved it. So now every time I come to the AI content, those pieces are all running. So I'm figuring out more ways to automate, create more content based on the existing content that I gave it, my podcast. If I then go and look at coaching is another great example. So I can take now my coaching calls, conceptually, same thing. Can it give me a summary, keywords, timestamps, session themes, session quotes, but it's now going to start creating a worksheet. Like, wow, this would be an amazing thing I can give to my client. It's going to create questions and analogy. It's going to write the email for me. This is all editable. So I use Grammarly as my plugin. So all these underlines is literally, hey, edit it so it's more grammatically correct based on what it thinks it should be. I can go here and edit it before I paste anything. Create the goals and objectives. And then I automate it. LinkedIn, create me the a LinkedIn post. I found another LinkedIn post. So I'm automating all these components based on just a coaching call. But then we have this section called pages. Now we can go ahead and take up to 5 recordings and create content. So in this case, I took 5 coaching calls. And I'm like, you're a course creator. Create me the framework for a course. I'm like, what? I've always wanted to create a course. But I've always been nervous, like, how do I create a course? Well, I got all these coaching calls, or maybe I've got these other recordings. How do I go ahead and now start leveraging that to create content? In this case, a course for myself. Or how do I then go get more clients? Maybe you're in a client service business. So these are my coaching calls. How do I now write a 3-email sequence to go sell my service? Now I've got 3 emails here based on my coaching calls, what I'm literally talking about with people. So I now have this ability. Or one of my favorites as well is, you're a professional writer, write me a detailed article. And now I took 5 coaching calls. I have this entire editable framework, my words, my thoughts, just organized now into a 2,000 to 3,000 word article. So I'm once again figuring out other ways I can repurpose content beyond. Greg, AI content, just a tool, more than that. I'm not sure I followed the question, but AI content, if we're talking about it from Castmagic standpoint, it is creating, here's a good one. So I've got these prompts. So it is automating already these prompts that I've already generated. Some came already preloaded that we give you. And then these ones that say edit are ones that I came up with. I typed them into Magic Chat. I'm like, I like this. I want to automate this so that every time I run a piece of content, this is going to run for me. And so now I've got all these additional pieces of content that I can leverage and utilize. So hopefully that makes a little more sense for you. Is a content just a tool more than that? Like it is repurposing, it's taking what the audio is. Here's another good example. If you aren't a podcaster, if you aren't recording coaching calls, at the end of the day, you probably have so many thoughts. So for those of you that are an iPhone friendly or iOS people, I can take the iOS app for my iPad or my iPhone and I record my thoughts. So now I can go in here, and I had a conversation with someone about breaking the fourth wall. They didn't understand what the breaking the fourth wall was. I'm like, all right, I explained it to them. I'm like, well, if they don't understand that, maybe other people. So recorded the thought for 2 minutes, and then I had to turn that all into pieces of content. So this became my LinkedIn post, became a tweet thread, it became all these additional pieces of content. 2 minutes of thoughts turned into all these other distribution channels that I was able to do. Or I literally went to an event on Thursday, took the phone out, recorded the event, got it uploaded to my workspace here. So now I just had to label the speakers. And then based on the event, I now have all this content. So if I want to go home and go, I just attended this great event and like, what did I learn? Now I've got all the contents already written for me based on quotes, what people said, what I could turn into assets. So I now have so much more ways that I can repurpose this. And the last one that we can kind of talk about is if you're a guest on people's podcasts, maybe you do that. So you can create a space and literally have it set up so that anytime you get your podcast, load it in here and it's going to create you now, because most hosts don't give you the content, but you now can go ahead and load it in here and get all your quotes, turn these quotes into quote cards. So if we want to look at what that looks like, workshop, this is now the studio function. So I found a quote here. Where is it? I think AI. I found this quote, right? I really like this quote that they pulled for me in the clip finder. So I went to the transcript, found the quote in here, highlighted it, hit studio, and then it turned it into this quote card for me. So I'm like, I took the quote. It talks about calculator, so I used an AI image generator that's built into Castmagic. I got this now as a great image generator quote card that I can now go post in other places. That is just the start of our studio function. We now will also be able to do audiograms as well as eventually video with text overlay. So you'll be able to do more, but hopefully I want to turn it over, leave time and turn this on over to David, but hopefully this gives you an idea of like, how do I take one piece of content, whether that's a 2-minute thought, whether that's a course I've created, whether that's a podcast episode that someone else has or myself, coaching calls, and leverage all these pieces to turn into different pieces of assets, whether it's extracting knowledge or engaging with other people with questions and so forth. Last thing I will is, I'll stop here. I think if there's any questions, I'm doing my best to answer any questions that are coming through. But if I'm missing anything, please let me know before I turn it over to David, because David will now show you in execution beyond the executions. I'm showing you how I'm doing it, what David does, because, well, that's probably why you're all here.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, I haven't seen Studio yet, so that was interesting getting a peek at that. I will share my screen. Please bear with us. It's our first time using StreamYard. So let's just do the window, I guess. That might work.
I'll stop sharing.
Oh, nope, don't share that. And try that again. Maybe share tab.
Well, I'll answer M's question while you're pulling that up. So more
Okay.
about the brainstorming sessions in your team. So recording a conversation, like we'll have I just go ahead and either we'll use the iOS app, we'll just record our huddles, or we'll record them on Zoom and then load them in here so that we can start extracting, like, what did we say? What could we use? The worst thing is thinking and saying something and not recording it and then going like, I wish I had that, or I said something months ago, I wish I had remembered that, because you could write it down. But now you can start using the AI to turn those thoughts into actions, turn that 2-minute ramble of mine on the fourth wall into something. So it really is now your content engine, your media arm, your extra AI assistant buddy. It allows you to take yourself and go like, instead of me trying to think of everything, let me talk it, let me record it, and now let me get assistance from a great AI tool to help me extract and think about what would I turn those thoughts into? How do I build on those thoughts? Maybe you still go back to ChatGPT and go like, great, this gave me some insights. I'll go to ChatGPT and build on that, and I'll bring that back over. And like, there's just ways that you kind of work, but it goes back to that disclaimer slide. Think about where AI fits into your workflow. And remember, you are the brand. So if you're leveraging AI, your words is what matters.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. And in answer to the previous question, is it just a tool or more than that? I think it's quite a bit more, because I'm constantly getting ideas from the community. There's a huge Slack community. How many people are in the community now? Like over 1,000?
1,300 people.
Yeah, and they're pretty active. I didn't even think about it's like bringing your phone and getting content. You could just make a blog from your day, just walking around. You could do like a series. That's pretty cool. So can you see my screen?
Just us right now. And,
Okay,
thank you for the question, Em. I appreciate that.
And maybe, not sure. It was
We had
shared
it.
on Add to
It
Stage.
was,
Okay,
yeah.
we're back. All
They
right.
were good.
Thanks for your patience. So this is where Greg showed us you can upload or import audio or video. These are some of the podcasts I've done. I'll use Grace's as an example today. So you load it in, and then it asks you to name the speakers, and you've got the guest and the host. You've got the timestamps. You can download that for when you upload it on YouTube or wherever you upload your podcasts. Then, as Greg said, you can go to AI content. And what I usually do is mix and match the titles. So I don't usually like to take stuff straight out of the can from AI, but I do use it as kind of a thought partner or ideator. So for Grace's, I think I mixed and matched strategies in art and marketing and something to do with new chapters or embracing change. Sometimes I do use the keywords, not all of them, but many or most. Sometimes I use the speaker bios, but what I've found is I like to shorten it. So you go to modify and you can just say, make it shorter, or you can custom. You can say like, make it super concise and submit, and then come back. It's thinking, usually it's less than a minute. I don't use everything, but I definitely use timestamps. Those are great for chapters in YouTube. Just copy those. Same thing though, if you want to modify, you can modify, enter custom. I'll show you how you can get even more ideas in a minute. There's a lot in here you can use, of course, and pull quotes are really good for quote cards, as Greg said, also to start off a blog, because we often do complimentary blogs of our podcasts. So we're bringing in some outside research, sometimes paraphrasing certain concepts, adding our own thoughts, but then maybe we'll have some pull quotes throughout. So this is really helpful to have. And sometimes I used to use the LinkedIn post. Now I tend to do my own stuff, but I still sometimes check this or just make it shorter, because I found usually right out of the can, AI tends to be a little bit verbose because the cost of words is nothing. So everyone gets a Ferrari sort of thing. So actually less is more in this case, in my style. Newsletter, we actually should probably use it for the newsletter more. That reminds me, we haven't been using it for the newsletter. And at the end, you can add custom content. So business lesson, like what was the business lesson from this? And you can just scroll through there, get some ideas. And let's go back up to speaker bios, see if it's generated. So yeah, you can see the difference. I think it was like 4 or 5 paragraphs before, and now it's just 1. And you can add a couple line breaks there, or maybe 1 line break, and make it easy to skim for skimmers.
And this is
And-
all editable, so you're exactly right. If you wanted to go ahead and hit return and turn that little break into 2, you've got the ability to do that right there.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out. I should always have you with me when I do this. This is what's really great about the community. There's a magic chat, and you can explore community prompts. And there's also some like 10 lessons learned, 3 fun facts. I think I've used 10 lessons learned. Blog post if you want to do that. So let's see what the community prompts are. You can see like the number of saves here. So 1.5 thousand. That's a pretty popular one. Curiosity, value fast, hungry for more. And you can contribute your own. You can see how many like people use these, hundreds. So that's really great. And I haven't used Studio yet, so I'm curious to check that out. I'll definitely be dipping into that. Do you have an idea of when video might be coming, Greg?
What do you mean video?
I think you said that eventually you'll be adding audiograms and then a video with text overlay in the studio.
So audiograms, I got the message this morning from our CTO that audiogram is in beta, and I'm like, I don't have the time to test it today, so I would be shocked if audiogram's not out for the wider public by next week, and then a week or 2 after that, because it's all been built. It's just been fine tuning now. So we started with the quote cards, then audiograms, then it'll be like, all right, how do I take this video and put text overlay on it? So that should be coming. Probably everything will be here. I shouldn't say everything. Those functions should all be here within the next few weeks, and we'll just continue to add more because it's, as you know, David, we're community led, which is why we've got this community prompts. Well, we've got 1,300 people in our Slack community to help. I'm a connector, so I like trying to bring people in together. But also we have a channel that says product feedback. So a great place for us to go, like, what is it you're looking for? What do we put on the roadmap, or what isn't just part of who we are as a engine? Because at the end of the day, Castmagic is a place to leverage for your ultimate content repurposing engine. So we're not going to do everything. We don't want to be everything to everyone. We want to just be really good at what we do, and that's content repurposing.
That's great. Yeah, you can very much make this your own tool. It's very modular. I haven't been doing much housekeeping. I could probably trim out some of the stuff I don't use and add some stuff that I do use. My whole team uses it. They like it when I introduce them to it. So yeah, it's a really great program. And I think the best part about it, I think I said it in the LinkedIn post, is the community and the prompt engineering you guys have. You're able to extract stuff out of ChatGPT that I haven't been able to do. And I don't know how you do it. I don't know if that's your proprietary information, but good job there.
You wanna
just missed it. Yeah, I was like halfway through it. So can you please tell us something about how human writing and AI content can coexist? So yeah, this actually reminds me of an earlier question we had about what makes good content, which it's like hallway of mirrors. That also reminded me of someone asking me like, what's the best camera to use? And it's the camera that you have on you. The best content is the content that communicates your message or points people where you want them to go. So if I make something and I want people to watch a podcast or leave a comment or read a blog or whatever, I track like A/B testing. Like, is it long form? Is it short form? Is it using a bunch of emojis? Is it not? Is it using these hashtags or not? And you can experiment a little bit. But like Greg mentioned, your voice, I think authenticity is going to appreciate over time as everyone has access to long form generative content. You can write a 3,000 word blog in a matter of seconds now, whereas before it would take a little bit longer than that. So I tell my writers, like, short punchy sentences. It's kind of like a symphony, like play around with the length and the tone and just talk about like communicate your message. Like, why would someone want to read this? What is it that I'm saying? What is my point? And less is totally more. It's perfectly okay to write a short sentence. So the way I use it, who was it that wrote that? Protoy. The way that I use that is like a thought partner. So I'll just kick off like, give me some titles or give me a couple of key themes, and then I'll see if anything resonates. And then maybe I'll write a sentence or a paragraph on that. And then I'll ask it, like, what do you think of this? Or give me 3 different variations of this. What kind of writing does this remind you of? Or if I think of a writer, I think Greg was saying you could put in like your favorite YouTube stars or your favorite influencers and just
write
say,
this in the
Yeah.
write this in someone's voice, or Tolstoy. I remember. So I remember when we first started, someone was playing around. They're like, the prompt was, into the tune of Gilligan Island, write me the lyrics using the podcast episode they did, and it did it incredible. It's like you read it like it was Gilligan's Island's theme song, but it was whatever that piece of content was.
Dante's rolling over in his grave. You can just make a long, like, rhyming novel. So yeah, that's how it is. It's just very much like a wall to bounce a ball against, a collaborative partner, go back and forth. And then I usually just, these days anyway, I trim it down. I was really enamored with longer form content about a year ago, and now it's just more like, we have so much content showing up in our inboxes and on our feeds and stuff. So just what gets now I think the art form is what gets the most meaning across in fewest words. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do. But yeah, Castmagic is a great tool. I've been using it for almost a year. I came across an ad you guys ran in the Superhuman AI newsletter and tried it out. And I tried out a few other things at the same time, and I don't use those services, and I still use Castmagic. So that says something.
And to add to the human writing and AI content, the whole point of this, and if we walk away from this in terms of understanding the whole pressure, how do I use AI to 10x my content? How do I take one idea, that 2-minute, I'll go back to that 2-minute breaking the fourth wall. How do I take that and turn my thought into 20 pieces of content that now I only have to edit? So the coexisting is, I'm now, my words, my thoughts, created in a format that I would never be able to write, and now I can just sit there and edit and then go like, maybe this sounds a little too AI, or I want to piece here and splice it together, but I'd rather edit than create any day. And if the creation part is just my own thoughts rambling, or it is a blog, or it's a newsletter, or someone else's kind of pieces of content, then great, let me go ahead and leverage those and use this as then the inspiration. How do I extract knowledge, insights, or marketing materials from an audio video, whatever that audio video may be?
So what are some of your favorite podcasts off the top of your head, Greg?
Well, I mean, look, I highlight 3 every week. So right now I'm going to plug my own. Uploading, I think, is probably my consistent one I'm doing weekly, because well, it's our own. So I want to know what's going on from there. I love Mel Robbins and what she talks about. She breaks the fourth wall. So that's another reason why I enjoy her. Like, she'll stop, make me start thinking about what the audience, as an audience member, and actually kind of engage with the conversation, as opposed to just being a fly on the wall. I think those are the best podcasts. Someone who's able to bring the audience in and get you to stop and think at that moment, as opposed to like, I'm trying to process 40 minutes of what your conversation is. It's a fly on the wall, and you're not giving me the time to think. Those are really good ones.
Good to know. I actually met a future guest on the Slack channel, on the Slack community for Castmagic, Valerie Hope. She'll be coming on in a week or two on our podcast. And she's had a couple podcasts with over 100 episodes. So I'm really excited to talk to her. And that's another good thing about being part of the Castmagic community, is you have a bunch of creators that are all looking to help each other out.
And I try to facilitate it as best I can. Like, my ethos is life is about time and relationships. You never know where one conversation today is going to lead. Never know where a conversation with David was going to lead to a workshop. Like, no, I had no clue, but you have no clue who's going to come into the community and what they do, and how we just proliferate ideas across whatever industry you're in. That's kind of what I love. It's like, I had a conversation with a person who's a yacht owner, and they're like, how do I use Castmagic? I'm like, great, let's talk about the business. It's client testimonials. You're trying to sell people on why should I go and rent this yacht? Well, perfect. Let's go ahead and take your app. And after a person has a person leaves the boat, or before, like, tell me about why. You record that testimonial, and now you load that in Castmagic, and it's now able to tell you quotes you can turn into. I loved your idea, or how you guys are taking those quotes and putting those at the top and like building out some content around it. Like, how do we start extracting insights and knowledge beyond just, I got to write this note down, or I said something and I missed it. This is now allowing you to process that so much easier. And once again, using AI to 10x your content. Content is however you want to look at it, whether it's a blog, a newsletter, social promotion, or extracting knowledge that I can use for my internal meetings or questions that I can go ahead and start posting and engaging with people on different forums.
So if you guys, if the viewers or anyone who watches this after the fact wants to check it out, you can use the promo code David100, all caps, and go to castmagic.io to put that in. You can scan the QR code on the
Actually,
screen
no, they need a specific link. They go to Castmagic.io. They need your specific link.
Oh, okay. Well, apologies there. The QR code should be that link though, because I got that
Yes.
from the affiliate partners. So scan that link and then enter the promo code David100, all caps, and that should hook you up for free month. And I think you'll like it.
Let's see here. I am putting that there. If you can get that replaced in there. But yeah, are there any other questions? I mean, was this useful? Hopefully I answered your questions, and hopefully you guys find that that there was use to understanding how to use AI content, how someone like Gary Vee is doing, how someone like Mikey's doing, but also how you could do it, how you can think about your own thoughts, your own content, coaching calls, meetings, speaking engagements, and then figure out how do we start doing more with what you've already got.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Greg. You're a machine. I don't know how you do it. Do you run like marathons or something?
No, I'm just a ball of energy, and I don't drink coffee, but I love this.
You are the coffee.
I am the coffee. I'm the energy. I bring the energy, right? Like,
Yeah.
For me, it's being able to help people and realize, like, hold on, I don't have a team. How am I supposed to do this? There's AI tools that are there to help you. And I'm not saying Castmagic's the only tool in your tool belt. It is a great tool, but it's also a great community that you can leverage. And then I've got other questions. Great. Take them to the community and go, hey, what am I trying to accomplish here? Who else has done this? What is your workflow? Because that's the other thing, like seeing your workflow. Like, if you want, show how do you take any of the content from Castmagic? Where does that live outside of Castmagic? Is it on your website? Is your social? Like, you want to show like an exact application of like, this is what I took from Castmagic and this is where it's living now.
Do you want to take that, Greg? I think you have do you still have
the
monthly calls?
So you can't get rid of me. I'm everywhere, which is the humor of this. So I run our community, so you get me always posting in there and engaging with you there. But yes, demo sessions. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I run a come onboarding and onboarding call. So basically, like, look, you want to learn how to do this? I'm going to walk you through step by step on how to do that. Some of what you've just heard, but I'll really dive deep. And then at the end of that, you'll get resources. You'll get our quick start guide, which I need to update with the new stuff, which will tell you all the things. It'll give you a recording. So if like you wanted to go ahead and remember what everything I said, you got the text space, or you can go rewatch a video. And then we run weekly workshops. So every week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it rotates based on schedules. The co-founder and I will come in there and walk you through whatever questions you have. So in this case, I think tomorrow, since Studio just came out, we'll be walking through and explaining how Studio is, and everyone will have questions because no one's really played with it, or those that have will start asking their questions. And like, we're there, we're available, so you're not alone. So it's not only us training you, but we now are starting to build out the consulting side of things, going like, look, if you need more than what I can provide you as a hands-on approach, then great. Here are the experts that are going to be able to do that for you. And then what do you know? They're in our community. They've been using this tool for a while, and they've got probably the niche of what you're trying to do. So definitely have demos, tutorials, and ongoing training for you. What
time is the workshop tomorrow? Do you know?
8 a.m. Hold on. So tomorrow,
every single one, I have something
planned. 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Wednesday, the 28th. That's our next one. But the link in your account, there's a link, and you can sign up for whatever day that
Okay.
works well for you.
Good. I really need to get back to one tomorrow. At that time, I have a podcast, but I'll definitely try to jump in the next one because there's a lot of catching up I have to do.
Go ahead and register now so it's on your calendar for the future, and then you can
Yeah.
go like, oh, well, is this important or is this important? You know what? I'm gonna actually skip the workshop and do this. You're like, know what? I'd rather do the workshop. At least it's already on your calendar. That's the way
Yeah.
I look at it.
Good point. Whatever you're doing for your scheduling seems to work. You're everywhere, like you say.
Look, we are community driven, and the more I can learn, and it also goes back to the ethos. Life is about time and relationships. The more I can connect with you, the more I can understand your business. I can give you ideas of like, here's other ways to help you, and the light bulb moments come. And then it's on you, as you said. You're like, I got to get deeper into using the tool. But once you set it up, once you start playing with it, once it becomes part of your workflow, then the AI is just helping you 10x, but work smarter instead of harder.
Right. Definitely. Cool. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I just want to say thanks, Greg, for showing us a little bit about your magic tool, your Castmagic. How long have you been with the company now? About a year?
So the company started in as an idea New Year's Eve 2022.
Oh.
They hit me up February of 2023 with already an MVP, and I think it launched in March, and then I
Okay.
joined April 1st. I'm like, wow, this is an unbelievable. This is like what I've been telling creators to do. Like, stop thinking downloads, stop thinking views, and start repurposing all those content pieces. And at the time, it was just podcasting, and now we've got all these other functions. The iOS app is like my lifesaver. I'm like, how do I then start turning this into? We've got speakers that are using the iOS app as a they go speak on stage. They've already recorded it, so they are now able to give content to the attendees. They're able to give content to the conference themselves, and they're now just being more sought after because they're providing such an added value to everything that they're doing, or they're commanding a higher fee because you're getting all of this with me, right? So it's really cool to see how people are thinking about it. Like a yacht, I never would have thought, but
Right.
now you start learning how other businesses can start thinking about things.
Yeah, I forgot about the app. I should use that too, just to have like content in the background. You never know how it could be useful.
That's it. Once you start realizing you don't know what you don't know, so why miss the opportunity? You'll start recording more. You'll start extracting more. If nothing else, if it sits on the shelf and you're like, I've got all this content and I've not done it, well, I'd rather have that than not have anything, right?
Yeah, I'd say yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks, Greg. I'll see you at one of the workshops soon.
Thank you, everyone, for attending, not only live, but also those in the replay. And David, thank you once again for putting this together, co-hosting this with me. Fun times.
Pleasure.
Night, you guys.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for participating.